Hello, this is Dr. Wynn Phippen, Professor of Plant Breeding and Genetics at Western Illinois University. This second video clip will cover our recently funded USDA CAP grant that will support the development of a new winter annual oilseed crop called Pennycress for the production of sustainable biofuels. I will briefly cover how I got started on Pennycress and provide details about our exciting new grant opportunity to bring Pennycress to commercialization for producers in the Midwest region and beyond. I hope you enjoy the video. In 2009, I was approached by researchers at the USDA-ARS National Center for Agricultural Utilization Research in Peoria, Illinois, to take a look at a new promising crop they had come across growing in the wild in a producer's field. This crop happened to be Pennycress, and it was doing quite well in springs when farmers were unable to get into their fields because of rain. These images are of wild fields that can be readily found throughout the Midwest in wet springs. I began my Pennycress research on several fronts. The first objective was to collect wild Pennycress from surrounding area to see how much genetic diversity was available locally. I was able to find 13 locations in McDonough County, Illinois, fairly easily. I also received 20 accessions from the USDA in Ames, Iowa, that had been collected from around the world. I grew these accessions at the WIU Research Farm to evaluate them and identify potential traits to start a breeding program. Some of the earlier traits we were looking for was thick stems, early flowering, and quick germination in the fall. We also wanted to understand when the best time to plant Pennycress was in the fall. One of our first experiments was a planting date study where we started in early September and planted Pennycress in replicated blocks every week until November. This photo is of students hand harvesting the planting date study. As you can see in the photo, the farthest plot, which they are harvesting first, were the earlier planted blocks. As you move forward in the photo, you see the plots get greener, representing the later planted plots in November. Looking at the data, we found planting Pennycress earlier in the fall led to higher harvest seed yields, which ultimately led to a higher percentage of oil in the seed. As the planting date gets later in the fall, the oil percentage in the seed begins to drop off. Many of these early research results supported the idea that Pennycress had the potential to serve as a new oilseed crop for the Midwest region. Another major issue that had to be addressed was, does Pennycress or Pennycress residue impact the following soybean crop in terms of seed yield, oil and oil properties, and protein content? We set up our crop rotation experiment where we planted soybeans at varying dates into solid stand Pennycress to look for potential impacts. The soybeans were Roundup ready and were grown to full maturity under conventional production practices. In late fall, all the soybean plots were harvested and total seed yield and oil and protein was determined. In the graph on the left, we can see the sequential planting dates and yields of both the control plots, which were just bare ground, and the plots which followed Pennycress for each of the planting dates. The y-axis is soybean dry bushel yield per acre. For the first 4 planting dates, there was no significant differences between the plots following Pennycress and the controlled plots. However, in the last planting date in late June, there was a decrease in soybean yield in both the control and the Pennycress plots. The interesting result was that plots following the Pennycress had a 3 bushel increase compared to the control plots. These results were published in Crop Science 2012 if you would like more information. When we look at the long-term corn and soybean rotation study, which included Pennycress, we did see a significant increase in soybean yield over normal fallow year rotation. LSC is long season corn, and SSC represents short season corn. Both these rotations, which included Pennycress after corn, indicated a positive impact on the soybean yield when compared to conventional soy corn rotation. We also found that there was no significant difference between the total protein, total oil, and the oil constituents in the soybeans in any of the replicated plots. This positive impact on soybean was attributed to improved soil conditions and decreased soil compaction. We were able to show plots with Pennycress had less compaction than fallow plots. Pennycress is fairly shallow rooted and contributed to less soil compaction in the first 8 inches, as shown on this graph. We understand there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. In recent years, we have also seen significant variations in the beneficial organisms found in the soil, in particular fungi populations. Many more studies need to be completed to fully understand the impact of growing pennycress in the conventional crop rotation in the Midwest. From 2010 to 2020, we've completed studies in planting rates and planting methods, herbicide tolerance, and various nitrogen rate experiments. We've also conducted 3 more extensive pennycress collections throughout the U.S. to find new genetics for the breeding program. Traits of particular interest were heat stress, early flowering, compact floral stems, and reduced shattering. This brings us to 2019 and the creation of an integrated research team focused on advancing pennycress for the Midwest region. IPREFER, or the Integrated Pennycress Research Enabling Farm and Energy Resilience Project, is a newly awarded National Institute for Food and Agriculture Coordinated Agriculture Project, or NIFA CAP project for short, that is focused on developing field pennycress, Thalassope arvense, as a viable new cash cover crop for the Midwest region. IPREFER is a $10 million project spanning 5 years starting in August 2019 and concluding in July 2024. This project is a partnership of 7 institutions and 1 private commercial partner, all focused on addressing key elements of pennycress production for the biofuels industry. For the IPREFER project, it is a partnership between Western Illinois University in Macomb, Illinois, and 7 other institutions with premier research programs ideally situated throughout the Midwest region. Partners include the University of Minnesota, University of Wisconsin at Platteville, Illinois State University, Ohio State University, the USDA-ARS North Central Soil Conservation Research Lab in Morris, Minnesota, the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, or AURI, in St. Paul, Minnesota, and our corporate partner, CoverCress Inc. in St. Louis, Missouri. The IPREFER project is coordinated through an executive leadership team and an external advisory board. For the executive leadership team, I serve as the project director, with the help of Ann Kinzel as the project manager. David Mark leads the northern area breeding efforts, while Scotty Wells heads up the agronomy efforts. John Sedbrook leads the southern breeding efforts, and Rebecca Darner leads the education and extension efforts. Chris Handel at CoverCress Inc. oversees the supply chain projects, while Bill Perry leads the ecosystem services part of the project. The advisory board consists of industry leaders, including Jerry Steiner, who is the CEO of CoverCress Inc., Steve Zonka, the executive director of CAFE, or the Commercial Aviation Alternative Fuels Initiative, Gary Hare, vice president of sales and marketing with Renewable Energy Group, Alan Weber, who's a producer and ag consultant with Mark IV, and Lauren Larkins, director of the Environmental Policy, Governmental Affairs, and Commodities Division of the Illinois Farm Bureau. The mission of the IPREFER project is to optimize off-season pennycress oilseed production by overcoming production and supply chain bottlenecks. The primary goal of the IPREFER project is to commercially launch pennycress as a cash cover crop in the year 2021. The IPREFER project is an integrated approach to addressing the mission of the project, involving research, education, and extension outreach components. For the research component, we've identified the importance of developing both breeding lines and agronomy production protocols for the 2 distinct regions in the proposed pennycress growing region. A northern region above the Illinois-Wisconsin border, including Minnesota, and a southern area consisting of Illinois and Ohio. Each area has its own unique environmental conditions and production practices that need to be taken into consideration when introducing a new crop. Our breeding and genetics team are tasked with identifying key traits for commercialization and developing advanced breeding lines for each of the production areas. The team is utilizing marker-assisted selection, mutagenesis, and CRISPR gene editing to complete integration of advanced traits into elite breeding lines. Field trials of the elite breeding lines are being conducted throughout the entire region. The agronomy team is focused on improving crop establishment in the fall, looking at technologies with interseeders to improve soil-to-seed contact, potential seed coat treatments, integration of pennycress into regional crop rotations, and most importantly, addressing any concerns producers may have with soybean cyst nematodes, or SCN, in areas in which that may be a concern. The Ecosystem Services Group will address the impact of pennycress as a cover crop on the environment of the production area, focusing on nitrogen runoff and water and soil quality. Another interesting component of this research is the impact of pennycress on pollinator health. Pennycress is one of the few crops that are flowering very early in the spring and may serve as a valuable resource to beneficial pollinators like the honeybee, which has been on the decline in recent years. The supply chain group is focused on addressing the needs in processing seed into oil and seed meal, determining the stability of pennycress products and byproducts, and ultimately the conversion of these products into valuable downstream commodities. The supply chain group will also assist in creating seed handling tools for producers to ensure effective seed drying and storage protocols. Studies will also be conducted on seed meal and animal feeding trials to generate data for regulatory approval. Education, extension, and outreach is a critical element at each of the collaborating institutions. Pennycress provides many new opportunities as a new crop. To help raise awareness, train a skilled workforce, and enhance and inform pennycress adoption, the IPREFER project is providing research-based information to producers on the advances in variety development, cropping systems, seed drying and storage protocols, production economies, and conservation benefits. The IPREFER team is also engaging in 4-H and FFA youth, parents and administrators, and the public through presentations and demonstrations, aligning with developing pennycress-based projects for youth to show at county and state fairs and conventions. Each participating partner will be providing a series of field day demonstration and on-farm question and answer sessions with industry leaders. The IPREFER project is also creating numerous opportunities for graduate and undergraduate students to receive interdisciplinary research training and education through internships and course-based experiences. Much of the information I have shared with you in this video is available online at the IPREFER project website, which can be found at www.iprefercap.org. If you're interested in learning more about the IPREFER project and pennycress in general, you can also follow us on Twitter. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you would like to provide feedback, please follow the attached link to take a brief survey. Thank you.